Welcome to the Let's Talk podcast with Dennis Martin.
Hello, this is Pastor Dennis Martin. Thank you today for joining our podcast. You know, I'm going to be sharing with you and talking today about let's not diminish someone else's work. Let's not diminish someone else's work. You know, in this season that we just came through, which was the midterms for elections, we found and saw a lot of commercials, negative and positive, where those were praising some work, and then there was some that was downing others' work, and many had their own opinions about the job or the work that one had done, and so they went through a lot of changes about it. And I began to think about that many times that happens along and in society, not only in the church, but it happens also in the marketplace, in the corporate America, even sometimes in homes and families, where we diminish the work of someone that they have done. And when you think of that word diminish, the definition for diminish means to make someone or something seem less impressive or valuable. Again, to make someone or something seem less impressive or valuable. And we have to be careful that we do not diminish the works of others and the work that they've done, or diminish not only their work, diminish their ministry, diminish their family, diminish those things and make it seem like it's less impressive and it's not valuable. Because when you think about it, as I often hear Bishop Harper say, that everyone has value. And there's some things that have value. What's one man's junk is another man's treasure. And so we must not diminish the work of another, or the life of another, or the ministry of another. Of course, I'm a part of the Church of God in Christ, and in 2005, I was appointed as the president of the International Department of Evangelism for the Church of God in Christ. I served until 2009. Before I got there, Elder Superintendent Edward Battles was the president, and I worked with him as I came into the department. And at his demise, Bishop Richard White, Mr. Clean, became the president, and I served with him as first vice president. Then I became the president. Then the late Bishop Willie James Campbell became the president, and then Bishop Elijah Hankerson, and now Pastor Gary Sprewell. Well, one thing I had learned, that even when I was president, I never tried to diminish the work of Bishop White. Why? Because he had done some great things. Bishop White had organized the regions, and he'd done a great work. Elder Battles was one that established the ID cards for the national evangelists. And I was the one that did the things with the technology, and then revised the manual for setting up the departments jurisdictional wise for the departments of evangelism and other things. We started a quarterly magazine called The Voice of Evangelism, and those things. And then behind me came President Campbell. He brought to the table many things. And then Bishop Elijah Hankerson brought to the table really soul winning and keeping count of souls and those that were saved. And now you have Pastor Gary Sprewell. He has his platform, and they're doing things concerning evangelism. But all of us that have come, no one diminishes the work of the one that came before them, because we recognize that we are standing, as the first assistant presiding bishop, Bishop Macklin, says, we're standing on the shoulders of others. I stand on the shoulders of Elder Battles. Bishop White stands on the shoulders of Elder Battles. I stand on the shoulders of all three of them. Bishop Campbell stood on the shoulders of us, and then Bishop Hankerson, and now Pastor Sprewell. So all of us stood there, and we recognize that what was going on, the foundation had already been laid. We didn't build it. We didn't do anything. That was a foundation that was already laid. You've got Mother Lewis that stands on the shoulder of Mother Rivers, and Mother Rivers stood on the shoulders of others that came before her. You've got the now presiding Bishop J. Drew Sheard, that stands on the shoulders of 7 others in front of him. And I appreciate them because they don't diminish the work of those that have come before them. And we must get to the place that we stop diminishing the work of someone that came before us. You know, a lot of times we use what I call buzzwords, and those buzzwords are used many times. And we use words like, this person now is taking us to a greater dimension. They're taking us to levels that we've never been to before. And that's good. But sometimes that's not good, and it's used in a condescending way. Because sometimes we are saying those things, which are buzzwords to me, because we don't really know if they're taking us to a greater level. Because sometimes what they're doing is they're building on the foundation that has already been laid. Not only are they building on the foundation that has been laid, but sometimes they may bring bright ideas or more ideas, but sometimes the things and the structure and things that are there that was brought by somebody else is still in place. Therefore, they're able to build on that foundation. And so we have to stop using these buzzwords to make it feel like, you know, this person is doing great, to sometimes to boost egos, to make people feel now you're doing better than anybody ever done before. Everyone contributed something to what's going on. And we have to recognize that and stop diminishing the work or trying to make it seem less impressive or make it seem like it's not as valuable. Standing on someone else's shoulders and doing those things. And I always say this, if you did not work with an individual, it is hard to say what they did not do because you don't know. I worked with Elder Battle, so I knew what he did. I worked with Bishop White, so I knew what he did. I didn't work with President Campbell, but I know he did some things. I didn't work with Bishop Hankerson, but I knew what he did. I don't work with Pastor Sprewell, but I know what he's doing. And so if you don't work with an individual, if you don't work within a system or a program, when you come in and you say, well, they didn't do anything, how do you know they didn't do anything? Just because they didn't publicize it don't mean they didn't do any work, don't mean they didn't do anything that was effective or anything that had impact. It's us on the outside looking in that say they didn't do anything. I never forget the late presiding bishop, Bishop G. Patterson, said once he became the presiding bishop, he said one day publicly in a service, he says, when Bishop Chandler David Owens was the presiding bishop, I used to sit back and say to myself, why did Bishop Owens do that? Why did he do that way and this way? He said, but once I became the presiding bishop, now I understand. I understand now what I didn't understand before. I was not sitting in the seat, so I didn't understand. Sometimes when we don't work with people and we haven't been a part of something, when we come, we think, oh, they're going to new levels we've never been before. And sometimes it's just the foundation has been laid for us to do the work. And so we continue on the foundation or the legacy that has been left for us to do the work. Because many times, if we did not build it, and I know there's some things we did build ourselves, but most of the time we didn't build stuff. It was handed to us. It was given over to us. And we should build on the foundation that has already been laid. And we should never forget the people that have come before us, that have laid the foundation and made the way for us. We shouldn't diminish their work and act like they didn't do anything. When I became a pastor here in Atlanta, church now that I pastor, Restoration Revival Church of God in Christ, was called Holy Trinity. The late Pastor Benton was the pastor. I was appointed. And I've never in 27 years act like Pastor Benton didn't do anything. And that since I'm here, we got the greatest thing now since I'm here. No, I didn't do that simply because I understood that I came into a situation when I came in that this pastor had worked, had toiled, he had done these things, and I would not dare diminish his work and act like it's not impressive and that is not valuable and is not important. We have to learn that we must not diminish someone else's work. You know, the late Dr. Martin Luther King worked in the civil rights place and for civil rights, and we have to know that we can never diminish his work because of what he did. I don't care what you may think, what you say about him, but he did a lot of work, and some 40 some years later, we're still enjoying the foundation that was laid through Dr. King and others. And we enjoy that foundation. Why? Because we don't want to diminish their work. We want the world to know we're grateful. President Obama became the president, the first black president. Why? Because a person like Dr. King and those that marched, Reverend Jesse Jackson and others, Reverend Hosea Williams and different ones, they laid a foundation and things began to happen, and we're enjoying that today. So I encourage you, let's not diminish the work of someone. Let's not diminish their ministry. Let's not act like, they don't have it going on. This is not important. And what they doing ain't nothing like what we're doing. Don't do that. That's not good for us. It's not good for us to be condescending, to throw down on people, because I want to tell you, everyone, I say it again, as my bishop said, everyone has value. And those that you think are not important, you'll be surprised at how much influence they really have and what they can really get done. And so just because everyone does not publicize everything they do, don't mean they're not doing work. So let us, even as leaders, not diminish each other's work, ministry, and what we do. Let's do the right thing. And let's be a blessing and encourage one another. Let's do as Aaron and Hur did. Let's lift the hand of Moses and let's see God work for all of us. I pray and trust that you have been blessed by this today. I would love to hear from you. Please sit down, email me today at LTDM. That's LTDM podcast at gmail.com. LTDM podcast at gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. Visit my website, dlmartin.org. I would love for you to connect with me on all our platforms. Well, the Lord bless you and the Lord keep you. Thank you again for joining today's podcast. And let's remember, let's not diminish the work of someone else.
Thanks for joining today's podcast with Dennis Martin.